Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name's Nick, and I am working for Citizens UK. I'm based in London, and today we've just about to launch our first live stream across our digital channels. So hopefully you can watch us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on X, and also on Instagram. And we're here this afternoon to have a chat about the launch of our brand new scheme, which is the voter registration scheme. So before we get into the details and meet our guests that we're lucky enough to have with us today, I'm just going to let you know that if you've got any questions or comments, or there's something that you want to find out more about, you're welcome to give us a shout in the chat. You can also let us know where you're from, if you need a shout out and who you're representing, and we'd love to hear from you. So we're going to do a quick round of intros so you can get to know everyone, and I'm going to pass over to Paul. Hiya, Paul. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name's Paul Amuzi. I'm a community organiser with Citizens UK. I'm really excited to be working on the voter registration campaign that we are launching, and also supporting our work, which ties in very nicely around the general election.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paul. And let's head over to Leighton's sixth form. Morning, Richard, Selena and Leo.
Hey, morning. My name is Richard. I'm the Manager for Culture and Community at Leighton Sixth Form College. We're based in East London, Waltham Forest. I'll pass you over to...
Hello, I'm Selena. I study Geography, Economics and 3D Design at Leighton.
Hey, I'm Leo. I'm a student in sixth form. I study Politics, Economics and Business.
Well, lovely to meet you, everyone. Thanks for making the time to be with us today. And let's head over to Julia. Morning. Sorry, I keep saying morning. Afternoon, Julia.
Afternoon, Nick. So I'm Julia Carr, and I'm Anglia Ruskin University's Community Listening Lead, and I work across our campuses in Chelmsford, Cambridge and Peterborough, doing all things civic, and work a lot with Citizens UK.
Well, nice one. Thanks, Julia. Thanks for joining us today. So before we get into it, we've got a few questions, and we'd like to hear a little bit more about the involvement of Leighton and Anglia Ruskin in the voter registration scheme. But before we do that, you're probably wondering exactly what is the voter registration scheme. So, Paul, could you talk us through it a little bit?
I can certainly try. So really, we are in the middle of voter registration week. Started on Monday, will finish next Monday. And in this week, Citizens UK is very excited and proud to be launching the voter registration accreditation scheme, which is a scheme that's designed to, one, recognise organisations that have probably been doing voter registration work since we can all remember, but also to encourage other organisations to actually take this important year of democracy and the general election and local elections as an opportunity to encourage their communities to know what they need to do when it comes to voter ID, and to assist and facilitate their community and members to get registered to vote. And of course, when the elections come, to encourage people to go out and vote. We know that in the country, there has been a slow decline of people, firstly, registering to vote, and secondly, turning out to vote. And this is a travesty. We believe this is a travesty. It's one of our biggest political powers that we are given for our democracy, to use our vote. And we see that lots of people are not motivated to go out to vote. And a lot of people are actually challenged to go out and register to vote. And there's lots and lots of barriers for them to actually use their vote. So this accreditation scheme is encouraging and equipping organizations so that they are able to take the lead in supporting their local communities to vote.
Well, thanks, Paul. Yeah, I think, I don't know if everyone has seen it, but I think a few weeks ago, the Electoral Commission released some research, which was kind of going over how many millions of people might be at risk of not being able to vote in the next election later this year. And that was, I think, upwards of 4 million people. And the kind of people that the study showed that are most at risk are younger people and students and people in rented accommodation, or people from poorer communities or more marginalized communities. So that was part of the reason as well for to kind of catalyze this movement, to get people to come together to enable as many people as possible to take part in the democratic process. So let's head over to Leighton Sixth Form. Richard and Selena and Leo, do you want to say a few words about what motivated Leighton to sign up to the scheme?
Well, I'll just quickly kick off that we've worked with citizens on a number of campaigns over the last few years, and we found them to be really effective in terms of helping to mobilise people. And around this particular issue, I mean, there's an alignment. Our values include our role within the community. We don't see ourselves as an education institution that just has four walls, and what happens inside it has nothing to do with the outside world. So we were looking at doing some work around voter registration, and when the Citizens Campaign sort of came along, it was a perfect sort of dovetail. Just to kind of give you a little bit of perspective, we have 2,300 young people in our college, approximately. 95% of them not white British, most not having had a member of their family go to university. A lot in rented accommodation, moving around quite regularly, etc. We also have 300 staff, if you include casual and part-time staff, and many of those staff are younger, and they too also potentially having to move around a bit, not necessarily having sort of updated their registration. So we sort of see it as a two-edged sword. I mean, mainly we're looking at focusing on engaging our young people in conversations about voting, but we also have a significant staff that we want to encourage to take part in the sort of democratic process. So that's some context. I mean, Selena, what do you think about the voter registration campaign?
Similar to what Paul said before, I think it's very important to encourage and be able to make sure people know what they have to do to be able to vote. Some people who want to vote can't because of the restrictions and the barriers that are there. And some people, like in my family, they just don't have the motivation, and they can't see past the challenges of voting in this kind of environment to be able to want to vote in the first place. So I feel like one of our main goals is encouraging people to do that.
And I mean, the reason I'm quite interested in the voter registration thing is to I don't think young people they don't view they don't have an especially strong connection to any major candidate. So I mean which means they don't really get represented as much. But the way to make them get more representation is through voting. Yeah.
Great, thanks very much, Leighton. And Julia, how about you for Anglia-Ruskin? What was your kind of motivation for signing up?
Well, a bit like Leighton, we were already doing a piece of work around voter registration that had come out of work that a group of students had done and had kind of come to me as my role in Citizens and said, we want to get more education and information out to students and encourage them to vote. So we worked with them to put together a programme. And then quite coincidentally, the citizens said, we've got a new campaign coming up and it's focused on this week. So we decided to have our first kick-off events in voter registration week. So it's all tied in really nicely. So we've run events this week on Cambridge, Peterborough, and today I'm on Chelmsford campus. We're working with the council election teams in each of those cities. So downstairs in the main building at the moment, we've got the council elections team there with a pop-up election booth and a ballot box and fake ballot papers to kind of show students what that voting process is and to try and demystify it a little bit. And we have so far this week registered close to about 150 students now who weren't previously registered to vote, and reminded all of those that say they are to check that they are registered to vote in both the city in which they're at university and their holiday, their non-term time address, if that's different to where they're at university. Because again, we found that a lot of students didn't realise that they could register at both addresses, so that no matter when the general election is called, they will be in a place where they can vote. So that's been a big piece of like student education, as well as signing people up to be on the electoral register.
Brilliant, thanks Julia. Off to a cracking start with 150 already in that little fortuitous bit of timing, teaming up with us. Sounds great. Richard and Selena and Leo, have you been up to some activities this week for Voter Reg Week?
Yeah, do you want to say what we did?
Sure. Yeah, we had a stall up in sort of like main sort of corridor of our college for about an hour. We got with 26 people signed up, and we had them sort of we asked them what policies they would vote for if they could, and yeah, they mostly said things around like transport, cost of living, sort of like affordable housing, a lot of Palestine stuff, university fees, women's rights, health, like mental health, a lot of education stuff, and a few people said safe streets.
Yeah, I mean, and we had 26 volunteer sign-ups, but we talked to probably several hundred people. We have a very busy sort of central sort of thoroughfare within the college, so most students have to go through it, and we were able to create a bit of a presence. And I mean, there were some nerves about stopping people to talk, weren't there, Selena?
Yeah, I'm not a very forthcoming person, so going up to people and just dragging them from what they were doing is not my forte. However, when you get started and you're passionate about what you're doing, I feel like it makes it easier.
Yeah. We had this kind of post-it note sort of exercise where we were just encouraging people to sort of put what they'd said to us into some sort of writing, and that's where we got this kind of this initial information. I was surprised that the number one overwhelming issue was transport fees, but all the other issues that Leo mentioned, like cost of living, affordable housing, support for Palestine in various different ways, free university education, investment in health services, particularly mental health services, was one. Investments in education, the free sanitary products, and safer streets work, which we've done with citizens in the past. So I don't think they were kind of unexpected issues, but it was that kind of skepticism that you got from talking to young people, that there was anyone out there that was putting themselves forward in the election talking about those issues. I mean, what did you feel about how trusting young people were in the college about voting making a difference?
There were a lot of people who didn't want to get involved at the beginning just because it was like a little bit like of fear about being too political, like putting that part of yourself that is a little bit more vulnerable out into the world. But when you sort of make sure that they know that there's other people in the same boat with them, I feel like it makes it them a lot more comfortable to come out and like be involved.
Yeah, I entirely agree. They were a bit sort of, they didn't particularly like, and they don't feel a strong connection to any major like political party, really.
Yeah, when that was noticeable. And I remember the election before last, when Stormzy endorsed a politician, that raised a level of interest amongst young people that I've not seen for 20 years. I've been a teacher for 30 years, and when I started teaching, students were very radicalised. The National Union of Students was constantly demonstrating about a lot of things, and sort of didn't really see much of that for many years. But in the last few years, I feel young people are sort of mobilising again and getting a little bit cross, a little bit angry. But it's hard to sell an election to people when they don't identify with anybody that's standing on your behalf. And it's trying to get young people, but several young people were able to say it, that whilst they felt individually powerless, they did feel that there was something to be achieved by amplifying their voice in greater numbers. So which is where, you know, again, our interest in the scheme lies. You know, we want young people to believe that, you know, that they can have power. They're powerless as individuals, but as a mass demographic, politicians would have to listen to them if a significant number, or a higher percentage of young people voted than older people.
Absolutely. And just to say, Selena, it sounds like you've done a great job this week being slightly out of your comfort zone and having to collar people in the corridors, but nice one. And I think what you've just said over there in Leighton is probably, it's helpful because it's something we were going to come to anyway, which is the little bit of the elephant in the room when we're talking about the voter registration scheme, which is how do we motivate people to want to vote? How do we galvanize people to feel like change is possible and to kind of combat that voting apathy that people, I think, probably understandably feel across all different types of communities at the moment. So it sounds like this kind of one-to-one discussions that you've been having this week on campus have been really helpful. What about you, Julia? Have you got any thoughts on that? Have you encountered people being maybe a bit cynical about it?
Yeah, I think same sorts of conversations as well. People very much, why would I vote? No, I had a conversation this morning, but I'm not going to vote again. They just don't listen. And we tried to have that conversation about if you don't use your vote, then your voice doesn't get heard. Had a very interesting conversation about the power of a protest vote and spoiling a ballot paper and making sure it was still registered, still dropped in the ballot box. And that there was a discussion about if enough people did that. So we had a protest vote in a city and 10, 15, 20% of the ballot papers were spoiled because nobody was representing their views. What a powerful protest that might be. How you galvanise young people to come together and do that, I don't know. But if they're having that sort of conversation, it was very powerful conversation I had. Something I hadn't actually thought about before. So maybe that is something we would talk about in some way. We will mobilise our university comms team and the student union comms team behind encouraging students to vote when the general election is announced. And say it's one thing to register, but you now need to use that vote in some way. So very much there is a drive here to try and ensure that our students' voices are heard, because they are the future. Our young people are the future of this, and they need to get their voices out there and they need to get involved. And the conversations, I've had a few conversations this week where we've been saying, like, people fought for your right to vote. You need to not forget that people that came before you fought very hard to give you the right to vote, and you have a responsibility to use that wisely, whether it's to cast a vote or to cast a protest vote, but don't just ignore it. Yeah, some really powerful conversations gone on this week. It's been a really interesting thing to be a part of.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear, Julia. I'm sure people watching online have got some thoughts on that, or some comments or suggestions, or maybe are also feeling a little bit despondent in a way, or thinking, how do we try to combat this issue? And what does the future hold? So if you've got anything you want to ask our guests while we're here, please drop it in the chat to us on whatever platform you're on. Let us know if there's anything that we can clarify for you or you want to discuss. One thing that I was wondering about for you both, for Richard, Selena and Leo, and for Julia, is you touched on it a little bit already, Richard, about how Leighton is not just a sixth form college. Is there a way that you can see the scheme helps to kind of bridge through the community, so beyond the campus and into communities or connections with other people through voter registration?
I mean, we are part of Waltham Forest Citizens Alliance, so there are other organisations that I assume will be also encouraging their particular organisation members to sort of get to ensure they're registered. We have discussed the possibility of opening the door as a sort of voter registration centre for local residents. I mean, we do have a relationship with residents. We have a residents association. They have access to our gym facilities, and it's possible that some of those might not have the necessary information, that we could sort of look to do something through our sports provision, which is open all weekend. So that's definitely a potential to sort of cross into our community. But I think the main way we're going to engage with our wider community on this one is that, you know, Selena, you said it, you have a family, we all have families, we all have multi-generational connections. And you've actually talked to me about family members who haven't said that, or said they weren't going to vote.
Yeah, specifically, I literally asked my mum this yesterday whether she was going to vote. I asked her if she was registered, and she said, of course I am. But I asked her if she was going to use that vote, and she wasn't sure. So within our college, with like around 2,000 people, all of their like associates, their individual communities, if we can encourage them to spread the idea that the need to vote is important, then we can like spread our little tendrils further and further to make sure people can actually like vote and get their voices heard.
Great.
No, I mean, I think Selena summed it up quite excellently.
Yeah.
Bill, what about you, Julie? Does it help at all for Anglia Ruskin to make other connections or any other crossover?
Yeah, I think same as Leighton, really. We're part of citizens in the cities where all three of our campuses are. So we've got those connections with other organisations in those areas. But I think, again, it is very much about our students then going and having those conversations with their friends. And there have been groups of students discussing this after having signed up, and they're discussing it with friends, and we've had students come up to us without us having to jump on them, which was nice. The students actually coming up by themselves to sign up, and because they'd had a conversation with a friend who had previously signed up. And I think one of the things that I've learned for doing this is that a lot of our international students are eligible to vote as well, which I wasn't aware of. So we have had a lot of Commonwealth students who are here for at least 3 years on their courses, who are now registered to vote, and who are having conversations with other people in their wider communities to say, did you realise that you are eligible to vote? Because I think that is a piece of information that hasn't been made readily available, like who is actually eligible to vote. We have a lot of Indian students and a lot of Nigerian students at ARU, and they've been very proactive about coming to sign up and really see the benefit of being part of that and having that power to make a choice when the elections come round.
Thanks, Julia. In fact, we've had a question or a comment come in, actually related to that issue that you just raised about people having voting rights from different countries. So someone in, I'm just trying to read the username, Positive Alero. If you're from a Commonwealth country and have recently moved to the UK, you're eligible to vote, or if your child has turned 18, they can also vote. And there is a place that you can go to find out. We can share that in the chat online as well, to find out about your eligibility specifically for Commonwealth countries. So yeah, that's a really good point. Now, everyone's been super generous with their time this afternoon, and I'm sure it's been over your lunch break as well. So I don't want to keep you too long, Selena and Leo in particular. But what is coming up for you now? What are the next steps for the voter reg scheme in your college and uni?
Well, I think one thing I would just like to say is that like the voting element is an important part of the process of the situation, and once every 4 to 5 years, we would like a headline that suggests that we're not a selfish, self-seeking sort of population of people that have no interest in the rest of the world. And it's nice that the headline might be a bit different next time around. But I think for me as an educator, the most important thing here, it's the process, it's the engagement of young people in discussions and ideas. And voting only happens once every 4 or 5 years, and on its own isn't going to change a lot. It's about what you do in your community. And so one of the things that we would like to be doing is making contact with some of our local candidates, getting them into hosting, doing a sort of question time type event, and putting them on the spot, having young people there talking about the issues that came up when we were exploring it on the street of our college on Monday and Tuesday, and sector. What are you saying to younger people? What are your policies? How will you sort of address those issues? And whether they get elected or not, they've answered questions in public, and you can then hold them to account later on, and you can test whether what they've said means something or not. So that's where we're heading, sort of putting on events that allow students to sort of articulate their views in front of some potential candidates. I would like to organise a mock election in the college as well. I mean, the logistics of that require a bit of working out, but that would be quite a nice activity. And we plan to be on the street every week, just having those informal conversations, as well as using all our comms to sort of just push the information out, using the tutorial system, etc., etc. Any other thoughts?
I think one of our persistent goals is to maintain the buzz, because at the beginning you can get a lot of people involved, but since the elections are in the mayor election is May, and then the other one is in possibly November or later, you have to maintain that interest and continue to keep people involved up until that point, so it doesn't fizzle out. Then it would be kind of pointless, but we have to make sure that we keep people's attention.
Cool.
I entirely agree. I don't think I have anything to add. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, guys. And if you had the mock election, sounds like a good idea. Maybe Selena and Leo could stand.
Yeah.
Something to consider. What about you, Julia? Have you got anything in the pipeline that's coming up now to keep the momentum going?
Yeah, and I think the point that Selena made there is really good, that we do need to keep this going. It has to be not a one-off event. So yeah, I think Leighton seemed to have some amazing ideas going on there. It's great. And for us, yeah, same sort of thing. So we are going to embed this in freshers in both September and January for our January starters. So it'll be part of that week. We're discussing, as a university, we're discussing at the moment how we provide auto-enrolment so that our students can literally just fill in a form and we can give them their information to the elections team, so they will be automatically enrolled. And I think that's really important, given what we found out that a lot of our students didn't know that they were eligible to vote. I think that's a really important step for the university to take. But I think from a sustainable point of view, we need to embed this in our Freshers' Week every year, both Freshers' Weeks every year, so that we keep that going. And on top of that, we have a comms plan to keep that information going and to remind them that registering to vote is not enough. They actually have to register for it to count, to vote for it to count. So I think that's a big piece of work that we'll be doing on an ongoing basis now. So yeah, this has been a really good start, but it is only a start, and we've got a lot of work to do to make this, to embed this and make it sustainable.
Well, thanks, Julia. Yeah, and we'll be here all along the way for that. And I think, Paul, if we just head back to you for a sec, we've talked a lot about the education communities and educational institutions today, but do you want to run us through the other kind of organisations or institutions who've also been joining to sign up to the scheme?
Well, the short answer is that it's everybody. The longer answer is that we were specifically targeting the kind of organisations in civic society that have closer relationships really with their community and the people that use their services or come to them regularly. So we're focusing, of course, on education. It's a huge place because of the stats around the 14 million people that might miss out, many of them being young people. So students naturally are a huge focus, but also we're looking at faith institutions, churches, mosques, synagogues, you name it. We've got loads and loads of ambassadors that have come on, from the Methodists to the Baptists, that we hope would encourage those faith institutions to also become accredited voter registration champions. We're looking definitely into the community organizations and charities, and then of course the employers. And this scheme has come off the back of the success of the living wage accreditation with employers. And we hope that actually we'll be able to extend this and encourage those employers, first those that are living wage employers and have shown their how conscientious they are, and their willingness to give back, to think about it, and then to all the other employers, to add this to something that they do in the lifeblood of their businesses, to say, actually, we're going to encourage our employees to get involved in the democratic process of our country. I also want to mention that this voter registration week is hugely important for lots of different organisations. Citizens UK is privileged to be the organisation that's kind of the umbrella, the one-stop shop for those organisations that are wanting to do some work around voter registration and being recognised for it. But there's loads of great organisations that are doing work on this at the moment. And on the 11th, which is Commonwealth Day, there will be the launch of a website that we co-developed, the Can I Vote website. And this should definitely will be live on the 11th, but maybe live a couple of days if you're very eager. And you can go on that website, anybody can go on it and check what elections they are eligible for. And it's really, really simple to use. So we are encouraging a lot of our organizations that are trying to get accredited to actually embed that Can I Vote website into the work and activities they are doing. So yes, we are really, really excited. We want to really recognize and thank the organizations that have accredited on this first wave. They are the early adopters, and they are the risk takers, and those risk takers are always followed by others. And so we really appreciate you diving in and doing the work and creating a path for other people to follow.
Well, thanks, Paul. And so if anyone watching is thinking, I absolutely want to get involved in this, I need to be part of the action, what's the best way for an organisation or an institution to sign up? Head to our website.
Yeah, I think if you are part of an organisation, an employee, or on some kind of staff or board role, then head to the Voter Registration Champions website, where you can register your interest to become an accredited champion, and you will come through to a very helpful and eager voter registration team member who will support you, hold your hand through the whole process of becoming accredited, and of course support you with the activities that you want to do. But if you're an individual, you might be thinking, oh, accreditation, what can I do as just one person? Well, many people are attached to different communities and groups. Like Selena said, really, that everybody's got some kind of tentacles, whether it's into your family or into your mosque or into your football club that you play at. And you can be an ambassador and encourage them to get accredited and do some work on voter registration.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Paul. And thanks to Richard and Selena and Leo. Thank you so much for joining us. And also to Julia. We'd love to obviously keep in touch and find out about what's coming next for Leighton and for Anglia Ruskin, and see if there's any ways that we can support you. And we'll definitely be back for another live stream soon. I'd like to thank everyone who's joined us today, and we will hopefully see you again in the near future. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Well done.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.